Hey, this is Adam from Braindead Studio. So, it's finally here. The game we've been anxiously anticipating for several years is right around the corner. Resident Evil 5's producer Jun Takeuchi had a lot to live up to after Resident Evil 4 set the bar astronomically high. In a way, Resident Evil 5 carefully follows the footsteps of its legendary predecessor, but it also seems a bit too similar. So let's see if this game is worth your hard-earned drug money or whether you should wait for a price drop. The most talked about part of Resident Evil 5 would be the co-op feature. For starters, it is extremely well done. Shiva is mostly competent and asking for and giving items is simple. To me, the co-op is only slightly outmatched by Left 4 Dead. Fighting with a friend over Xbox Live, split screen, or System Link is extremely fun. If you haven't noticed already, Resident Evil 5 looks great. The visual polish is amazing and it definitely keeps you immersed in the game. The AI is also pretty good for the most part anyways. The infected, or whatever they're called, put up a great fight. They can dodge attacks, throw items, and basically do everything they did in Resident Evil 4. Speaking of Resident Evil 4, if you've played it then you'll recognize many of the elements in this game. The weapon upgrading, simple puzzles, button mashing scenes, deliciously cheesy dialogue, and non-zombie enemies can all be found in Resident Evil 5. Hell, even El Gigante makes a return. Speaking of which, the boss battles in this game are great fun, and when you're fighting one of the mini bosses in the game, you'll be happy to have Shiva tagging along. And did I mention that Wesker is a total badass? Well, he is.
I'll just have to kill you quickly.
The popular Mercenaries mode from Resident Evil 4 makes a return. So when you finish the main campaign, you'll still have plenty to do as you fight wave after wave of enemies in various environments from the main campaign. The Mercenaries mode isn't really different from the Mercenaries in Resident Evil 4, but it's still a lot of fun and definitely helps the replay value. This is a great game. In fact, most of my complaints are because of my personal taste, rather than something actually being wrong with the game. For example, I think the inventory system in the game is a step back from the inventory in Resident Evil 4. I enjoy collecting items and organizing them in my inventory. However, Resident Evil 5's inventory is done really well. You can even map inventory slots to the buttons on the D-pad to help you out during the more intense moments in the game. Another issue I have with the game that isn't necessarily a problem with it, but my own personal taste, is the inability to strike. I really would have liked to be able to move while shooting like in Dead Space. I realize not being able to move is a way to make the game more intense, and it's kind of a staple of the series, but I just don't like it. It's important to mention that once you drop an item, it's gone forever, and that really sucks when you have such a small inventory. The story is great, it moves the game along, and it will definitely please both fans of the series as well as newcomers. Several characters make appearances, but my personal favorite is the evil guy known as Albert Wesker. This game has one of my favorite stories in Resident Evil games so far, and it's a lot of fun to watch. Now I know I've said this before, but I'll say it again. Resident Evil 5 is a great game. It follows the footsteps of Resident Evil 4, which ends up being both good and bad for the game. The things its predecessor did right, it does better, but that's about it. Resident Evil 5 succeeds in so many ways, but fails in one big one: evolution. Resident Evil 4 revolutionized both the series and the survival horror genre, and unfortunately Resident Evil 5 doesn't. I'm not saying the game needed to be groundbreaking, but I'll admit I was expecting a bit more after playing Resident Evil 4 literally dozens of times. Resident Evil 5 will attract some newcomers and please Resident Evil veterans, and with a wealth of unlockable content and great multiplayer, this game has a great replayability factor. Because of these issues, Resident Evil 5 is kind of a difficult game to grade. If my grading scale was, say, a letter grade or a percentage, it would take some hits. But because I grade based on a game's value, to me it's still worth its starting price. So, without further ado, I give Resident Evil 5 for the PS3 and Xbox 360 a $60 value out of 60. Thanks for watching my review. If you have time, you should definitely check out the new Braindead Gamer podcast. You can find it on iTunes. I've put a link to our iTunes page in this video's description box. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please review us on iTunes because your reviews will be what keeps the podcast going.